god, we've got no preparation whatsoever. I've just been thrust into this at the last minute. But here we are recording for the faction waaagh between Inekura, rocking the beautiful eye here for the Inquisition. The Inquisition Order Malleus, Demon Hunters. Going up against Tenso and his war boss right now. Hopefully I've got a stream delay, or these try-hard players could be stream sniping one another. I think Tenso's actually live streaming this himself, so I can't see the chat either. I need to go get my phone so I can have the chat here as well. This is not very prepared. You know, we'll have chat interaction once I get my phone after this is done. But for now, we're going to treat this like a cast, and it's going to be like one of them real casts, because you don't know how long this is going to go on for. Whoa, I'm a little bit laggy. That's kind of crazy. Okay, so we've got a 1 IST build for Inekura. Now, in this event, you don't have to tell the opponent what your hero choice is. So Inekura didn't know that it was going to be a war boss. I imagine he's going to be, yeah, he wants to get the second IST now because he sees there's a war boss, and the war boss, you know, he's a big melee bully. You really want to have the extra IST in the early game to focus him down. Nice little stomp there, pathing alongside the tank trap. Going to do a little bit of damage to the strike squad. But the war boss starting DPS, it's actually pretty good for a melee hero to be honest, but strike squad are so tanky, they can kind of shrug it off. That said, they don't want to take a fight against slugger boys and a war boss, even with IST supporting fire, so you will see the strike squad is backing off there to the help of the IST. They're probably going to both fall back. Ooh, we've seen the second IST actually get cancelled. Oh, that is a really risky play by Inekura, and he's now in big trouble. This is a terrible start. We've got burner sluggers now. A double slugger opening for Tenso, very nice. So the sluggers with their high DPS but lower HP than the war boss, they're the ones that are going to be on the generators bashing. And the high HP tanky war boss is going to be just zoning out the IST. Obviously these sluggers here are in melee combat, so they're not actually taking a lot of damage from the ranged attacks because they have that ranged damage resistance for being in melee. Warboss is forced off now, but it looks like there will be a full power bash that is 2 generators down and the power node destroyed for Inekura. We see Strike Squad in range stance there, trying to utilise their Storm Bolters. We see one Slugger Boy get dropped, so a beautiful start here for Tenso. Now, that said, his map control isn't too dominant in spite of that, and in fact now, his map control is going to be inferior. In fact, we even see the Purgation coming along now from Inekura, going to try and attempt to counterbash. So hopefully Tenso sees this and gets his war boss out sooner. Actually, Inekura is going to be able to return the favour. This is going to be a low power game. Wow. Let's see how many gens in he can get here. Needs to hurry up and start shooting the gens. Definitely get 1. Might be able to get 2. Solon the war boss here to disrupt him. We've got Storm Boys coming out. Neurotoxin Pistol. Or the Executioner Pistol with the Neurotoxin ability. Basically turns the Aversa Assassin into a nice hybrid hero. What DPS does he have? Okay, so 23 DPS, so a lot lower than something like the Tech Marine who has 35 DPS, but he retains all of his melee power, and he gets that beautiful Neurotoxin ability which does a lot of targeted damage to a single model. Great for bleeding models. But it also slows their movement by 40%, so it's really nice to slap that on the war boss, do a good bit of damage over time, slow him down and control him. So the burner sluggers are back again for the power, but there's actually no power really around. We're going to see double Purgation coming out now, but looking at the composition from Tenso, I would think that this is going to be very good for him. Of course, the Storm Boys can jump one of the Purgation. Now ideally they want to jump the rear one, and then the war boss can go in first and tie up the other Purgation squad. Then your sluggers are free to basically just gangbang the strike squad and run riot around the back lines. I think we probably want to see spiky armor from the war boss here. Make him a lot more tankier. Just make him a pain in the ass, because the problem for Innie, whilst he does have that Executioner pistol to try and control the war boss, he just doesn't have a lot of single target damage right now. Psychon being utilised by the Aversa Assassin there. I was worried then that he was going to retreat through the Storm Boys and potentially die, but looks like he'll be fine. Purgation should be able to win these engagements now, because the Storm Boys are too low with no energy to jump them. They will simply suppress these Orc Boys. Tenso needs to focus on getting good map control. Purgation really proving quite valuable these days. It's nice to see. Tenso putting a lot of upgrades into shooters here. Fully upgrades his shooters. I actually think the shooters aren't really doing a lot right now. I think that's a bit of a mistake to upgrade those shooters. What purpose do the shooters have? Focusing down the Aversa and maybe the IST, but the IST not really relevant right now. The permanent threats, of course, are the Purgation Squad and potentially the Strike Squad. Which, yeah, shooters not really doing much with. I'd much prefer to see the Spiky Armor and the Bang Bang Hammer. So we've got the Boss Ball up. So it was either the Boss Pole or the Angry Bits that we're going to see here to help him counter the Purgation, but we're going to see the Boss Pole. So that gives not only a HP buff in an AoE, but actually a... Oh, they do an AoE suppression now. Oh, that's huge. I didn't realise they even did that. But also a suppression resistance buff. So basically it takes the Purgation a little bit longer to suppress these guys, which is kind of a big deal actually for the Purgation because they're very short ranged. So even just 1 second longer, you know, that could be the difference between the enemy actually getting into melee before you suppress them or not. So VP's looking very favourable for Inekura right now. He's definitely had the better hand of the map control, if not the engagements. That said, I feel like recently you went live, you'd say, Bruce, I know, I just haven't seen the chat yet because it's all... Yeah, I'm streaming, I know! I can't read the chat. Because I don't have the monitor up at the moment, I don't have overlays, I don't have anything. I didn't want to delay these guys, I just wanted to do this. So enjoy hearing me jerking off. As if you wouldn't hear me doing that if I was doing a recording for a YouTube video anyway. Come on, Bruce, you fucking mug. Fucking sitting there in a fucking beach down in Kent. Okay. Purgation handling the Slugger Boys perfectly here. But Storm Boys are going to try and come in and save them. Slugger's really overextending there. I don't really see the point of them staying in there. I mean, just bleeding 3 models for really not a lot of purpose. I suppose Tenso wants to use them for the map control. What's going on over here? So, Purgation have pushed up with the Strike Squad. Once again, putting pressure onto this gen farm. This is pretty rough. Let's have a look at the eco. Can the Storm Boys get a kill and retreat? It's almost a joke, that, isn't it? To be honest, they did a lot of damage. Oh, energy burst, draining all the energy from the Storm Boys. This is where you wish you were playing the mech. Could give them energy with a battery pack, wouldn't it be glorious? Ecos are looking pretty damn even. VPs aren't too bad. Definitely a big advantage for Inekura. But nothing that Tenso can't come back from. Definitely wants to get onto his power though. Could even see a frag grenade to delay. We don't see it, I don't really know. Okay, now we see it, a little late. Love the effort there, Innie, but a little late on the frag grenade, mate. Look at the map control though. Just a massive line of red. Massive line of red. Reverser Assassin trying to do things here with the Executioner Pistol, but it's a bit so-so. He's got his Sin Skin Body Glove, which is his kind of tanky melee armor. I mean, it's definitely nowhere near as powerful as other tanky melee armors, but part of that is the fact that you can get so much damage resistance on your Reverser Assassin. I don't really feel like the Reverser Assassin has put in too much value here this game, and I guess we see that in the fact that he's not even level 2 yet in spite of having both of these gears. I think he will start to come into his own though in tier 2. You know, he gets his Bio Meltdown Global, which, oh, that can be devastating for those poor Orc boys. Probably will want to get the Neurotoxin Claw. Try and snipe down some of those really expensive squad leaders that the Orcs get in tier 2. We'll have to see. Sluggers need to be careful here with the Grey Knights on them. They do get out. I really don't like these shooter boys. I don't think they've contributed a lot given that he has invested 45 power into them. I think getting some extra Warboss armors, I think the spiky armor would have been amazing here. It's almost like the perfect time to get spiky armor. The only actual proper ranged unit that there is the Stormtroopers. Purgation do shit damage to a war boss. Strike Squad, you know, they're okay. But they don't really want to be stood there shooting a war boss with Storm Bolters. They need to be fighting the sluggers of the Storm Boys in melee, right? And the Aversa Assassin, he's okay, but, you know, 23 DPS. Remember, the Temp Marine does 35 DPS by default, so even with this upgrade, it's not that good. Really think this was a big missed opportunity for Tenso. So we see the truck coming out. I don't know if Tenso has a good understanding of where the relative economies are here. I don't know if he realises that there is already a Rhino out. That said, Ini clearly doesn't realise that Tenso is doing so well in economy because he was upgrading the heavy bolter there. But he has seen the Warstruck now, so he cancels that, and he's going to go for a las cannon, and that puts Inekura into a very good position compositionally. And I have to say, I don't know yet how viable Ordo Malleus are in the long run compared to other factions, but what I will say, I know for sure, is that the Las Rhino is one of the best things that the Ordo Malleus has in their toolkit. It is an amazing option. The ability for it to basically counter every other walker, every other transport, and basically every other melee walker as well, whilst also being a vehicle itself and requiring AV from your opponent, because the reason why they need to get AV is it's a transport. So you can reinforce your melee troops off of it. So even though it itself is kind of irrelevant in the combat with this AV formation, you've got to get AV to take it out. You're not going to win big fights if the Grey Knights can just keep reinforcing. So it's something to consider. Here we go, we've now got double Psy Cannons. Let's see how they perform. Now I've tried out the Psy Cannons a fair bit recently, and I must admit I'm really, really unimpressed with them. I'm not a fan. I feel like they need splash damage. I don't think they have splash damage. They might have a little bit. I know they ignore cover, so if you've got like tactical marines hiding behind cover with a plasma gun, you get Psy Cannons and just shoot them from longer range. That's like a good counter, but I don't know, for the range, the DPS just doesn't seem very good. I feel like they need more splash, but we'll see how they perform here. Obviously, if they're not facing the correct direction, they're not going to perform very well. Sluggers here should be able to move in and force these perks off. VPs are looking very problematic here for Tenso. Versa Assassin's bleeding the Storm Boys like crazy. I wonder what Ini's going to get next. He's got a tremendous amount of resources. He's going to go for a Dreadnought. Tenso, on the other hand, has some truck busters. So if he does get a good engagement here, he might be able to snag the Rhino. The DPS of tank busters is, of course, far higher than the DPS of the Las Rhino. But the problem is he's now revealed the tank busters, so Ini is obviously going to keep his Rhino nice and back. And look at the damage now coming in from the Psy Cannon, not actually ignorable. Rhino is down to half HP already with that truck buster, but the War Truck's getting shot by the Psy Cannons too. Unfortunately, this is the classic problem for the Las Rhino. It's misfiring. One more shot's going to do it. The truck's driving forward. It's going to get taken out. Oh my god, is it going to sneak away? I think it might sneak away. Look at Purgation getting shredded at the moment by double Slugger Boys, bringing them down to 20 HP. One more hit from the Sluggers would have wiped that unit out. Will the Rhino go down, or can the Dreadnought get into melee? The Dreadnought cannot get into melee in time, and the Rhino is taken out by the Truck Busters. That is a nice little victory for Tenso, because now there is no AV on the field to kill the War Truck, which managed to sneakily get out of that engagement with 10 HP left. I think the big problem for Tenso right now is the VP situation though. 465 VPs for Inekura right now, and we're approaching 125 for Tenso. Soon going to be under 100. He really needs to get a grip on the VPs. Stormboys over here are trying to help out with that situation. Stormboys have done okay. I feel like they've been bleeding quite a lot as well though. The Bomber Boy upgrade will help him quite a lot, increasing the range on their jump. Help him deal with all these Psy Cannons. But the VP pressure's tremendous. Look at this Strike Squad now with their Justicar level 2. Fully upgraded. Really fearsome combat unit. Look at this out of combat regen that they've got. 1952 HP, heavy infantry armor. I'd love to see a fight between these and Slugger Boys. I don't know who wins. I feel like the Strike Squad might win that, you know. They're just so powerful in tier 2 with that HP buff that the Justicar gives. And now a Terminator Librarian. That's really interesting. I mean, he does have the double side cannons for ranged AV against the truck, but... Wow, Warboss only just getting out there, Jesus. Hyper-metabolism used on the Aversa Assassin gives him a lot of HP regen. So that basically means he's very hard to kill in retreat. And then eventually see the debuff kicks in. Great little tool though to help your Aversa Assassin survive on retreat for sure. Saikano's right now doing a great job denying the VP from Tenso. He needs to do a big push, but there's a melee Dreadnought stood there guarding it, so... Yeah, this is scary. I'm not really sure the best way for Tenso to approach this. I think for sure he needs to be putting pressure over here, but that of course is why the Strike Squad has stood there, because the Strike Squad are very hard to 1v1. It's basically going to require 2 units of Tenso in order to deal with that Strike Squad. So map control is a problem for Tenso. He needs to find a way to approach these Purgation. He is going to do a big push onto the west side of the map right now with a truck and his Warboss. But we see the Purgation rotating around, the Dreadnought moving to support. The Strikes just retreat, they don't want to take that fight. But Inekura doesn't really mind. All he has to do is hold these 2 VPs, so the EA is now capturing the southeastern VP, so it's still going to be a 2-for-1 in favour of Inekura, and there are now less than 50 VPs left for the Tenso. The play needs to be made soon. You see the Saikana's actually doing a pretty good job when they're layered together, DPSing down that war truck and keeping it away. That is only a default war truck though, so you know that was only 200 vehicle armor damage, not a lot. Time is running very, very low right now. Remember, you've got to start the cap when you've got 7 or more VPs, or you're going to lose the game. Time is... Tenso's going to GG. He doesn't know how to approach this situation, and that is a victory for Inekura in Game 1 of this faction waaagh. So they're not going to be able to play the same hero in the next game. Let's find out how things go. Death before dishonor. That is what the brother captain is saying right now. We have Game 2 between Inekura and the Tenso in our faction waaagh. So Ordo Malleus versus Orcs, we've got the Brother Captain and the Commander Knob, and I'm going to say right from the offset, this is going to be really hard for Tenso. I think the Demon Hunter is the weakest of the Ordo Malleus heroes against Orcs. The Brother Captain right now, honestly, is kind of jacked. He is a man on roids, and a lot of different fucking roids as well. So... good luck, Tenso. Tenso, the Commander Knob in general, is the weakest of all of the free Orc heroes against what is known as MEQs, Marine Equivalent Units. So that refers to Tactical Marines, Strike Squad, CSM, ASM Raptors, Interceptors. The reason why is because the Commander Knob relies a lot on his piercing DPS, and obviously those units are all heavy infantry with high HP, so you can't bleed them, you don't do a lot of damage with piercing. But the worst thing is, Commander Knob doesn't have a lot of options to actually support his melee. Look right there what happened when the Strike Squad just sat in cover, waited for the Slugger Boys to approach, and then just kicked the shit out of them. And we see that the Slugger Boys actually upgraded to the Burners, but they engaged prematurely there. You need to have your Shooter Boys, and your Commander Knob ideally, flanking the cover as the Sluggers are fighting. Being on the other side, where the Strike Squad are fighting, and they've got the range damage resistance from being in melee, and the cover advantage in addition to that, it's not going to go very well for your Slugger Boys. Not in Tier 1, maybe in Tier 2 when they get their big knob, but not in Tier 1. Things are going to be quite difficult. So... you know, Mech Boy can get the battery pack, can heal his Storm Boys, can give them more energy in case the Strike Squad have been annoying, draining their energy, preventing them from jumping. That's lovely, that really helps you out because Storm Boys have power melee. So being able to heal up the Storm Boys is going to give you a really good tool to kill the Strike Squad. The War Boss, of course, has the Use Your Choppers global, the Ardbloys global, he has his big stomp, he has his normal stomp. You have a lot of different ways to help beat melee. Nice stun bomb there, but unfortunately the strike squad are all in green cover, so you can see they're taking absolutely minimal damage here from the shooters. And map control already is massively in favour of Inekura. We see the Unending Purge has been purchased on the Brother Captain. That's going to give him extra HP every time he attacks in melee, right? Yeah. 1.15% heal every time he attacks in melee, 0.5% with Stormbolter shots. I wonder where they got 1.15% from. Why not 1% or 1.25%? There's not many things in this game that give you a 0.15 buff, which is interesting. Double strike squads are going to be the play here. I like it. I like it. I actually, having been playing a bit of Auto Malleus myself in preparation for this event, I have found that IST tend to be the sort of crux upon which Auto Malleus gets wrecked. And the more you rely on IST, the more you open yourself up to losing, because they can just ruin your economy. If you bleed too many IST, you just lose as OM. You get completely wreck-starved. And Strike Squad right now are performing really well. So we'll see. It's interesting. Tenso's actually opted for a looter here, which I actually think is a pretty good idea. However, if Innie gets interceptors now, I don't know how Tenso's going to deal with it. He's probably going to need another Slugger squad to babysit these looters all day long. Also, the Brocap is kind of a problem, who now has the Blessed Aegis, recently buffed. So this used to give you 3.5 damage absorbed for every 1 energy point, right? Now it gives 4 instead. So, you know, percentage-wise, that's a reasonable increase. But that's not crazy. But it also gives you plus 100 max HP now as well. So overall, that's a really nice buff to improve the durability of the Blessed Aegis armor. And of course, that has some synergy with the... Oh, missed the gen, missed the gen. Oh, no way. He's going to leave the gen alive with 17 HP. Get out of here, Tenso. Ooh. Assassin's Knife on the Commander knob. Not a bad shout. You know, there are definitely worse shouts than that. Yeah. Operatives move in and throw off a bit of a smoke, but Commander knob's kind of going to make them run away. Okay, they use their fallback plan. This is really rough for Tenso. His map control is just getting absolutely smashed. It's I don't know. I don't know why he's investing so much in shooter boys. This is the problem I think he's having. He's putting all this money in shooter boys, but I look at the things that he needs to counter right now. Strike Squad, mainly. They're the main threat, right? Brother Captain. Shooter boys, to be fair, will actually do fairly well against the Brother Captain, but with regards to dealing with the Strike Squad, they're just useless. Now, right now, the looters are actually putting in a huge amount of work, but basically, all this right now, every facet of this which favours Tenso could be done without having the shooter knobs on the shooters. The shooters aren't really trading with ranged units right now. They're just daka melee units. And when the melee units get into melee anyway, they're going to win. Having the shooter knobs doesn't do anything. The big shooters are okay because they give you that extra range DPS, they give you the aiming what stats suppression, but honestly, if I was Tenso right now against double strikes, I'd just be running 2 default shooters, and I would be getting double Pain Boy, but whoa, I would not be getting double Pain Boy, I'd be getting double Sluggers, and maybe a Pain Boy on top of that to really dominate the melee aspect of the game. The looters are an interesting choice, I don't know, you know, looters, you know, honestly, thinking about it, going against Auto Malleus, maybe you want only 1 shooter, in case they do this double strike squad bullshit. Maybe you go Slugger Shooter, Fast Looter, or you go Slugger, Shooter, Slugger, Looter, Pain Boy. That could actually be really interesting. This right now, double shooter looter, it doesn't work. It doesn't work. It's too immobile. It's way too immobile. Strike Squad there, double banishment on the sluggers, they just kick the shit out of them. You need the Pain Boy heal, that would have got rid of all of the banishment damage there, and then healed them extra, and then the Pain Boy can run into melee and tie up the operatives. Mind Blades now dropped onto the Strike Squad, increasing their melee skill and damage. Absolutely no chance for Tenso right now. Commander Nob attempting to 1v1 a Brocap is, you know, that's going to be problematic. This game is basically done now. This is over. Inekura is going tier 2, he's bashing the gens. I mean, Tenso can go tier 2 as well, but what's he going to get? The Strike Squad are going to get their Justicars, and then they are stronger than Sluggers with their Nob. Shooters literally get no better in tier 2 than what they are right now, and the shooters aren't doing anything. So what the fuck's going to happen when the Strike Squad get exponentially better, because the Justicar not only is a good fighter himself, but he increases the HP of every other Strike Squad Grey Knight model? What the hell are the shooters going to do then? They're not going to do anything. They're really not going to do anything. Then a Rhino's going to come out, a Las Rhino, so then you need to get AV. So then you're probably going to have to get your Beamy Looter. That's part of the reason I like the Beamy Looter though. The Looter choice in general. I do like the Looter, I think they're pretty good. I mean, they definitely control the double strikes. Operatives are a very mediocre counter. I like the Looter pick, but I think you need to either keep your shooters naked. Now obviously if the Odomalius gets a lot of IST, then yeah, get shooter upgrades. We're going to actually catch the Brother Captain here. Or is he? Yeah, he is. He had the Halberd on the way as well, so that's not bad. Tenso's fighting for it, but man, he's got no map control. Operatives are taking his gens. The Las Rhino's on the way. This is just... I don't like the look of it, man. I don't like the look of it. No Justicars coming out for Inekura. Yeah, all the money unfortunately dropped onto that Force Halberd just as the Brother Captain went down. How sad. How sad. I know Tenso's going to be complaining about the balance here as well, and it's so sad. I think this is one of the things that confuses people about OM. They're a bit like Tyranids and IG, in that compared to the classic sort of quartet of Eldar, Chaos, Space Marines and Orcs, they play really weird. They present a unique set of problems and a unique array of assets that they have available to them. So if you want to deal with OM, you've got to fight them differently. You don't fight Odomalius like you fight Chaos or you fight Space Marines. You know, these heavy investments in shooters is probably great against Space Marines who are relying heavily on upgraded scouts. But against Odomalius, who is, you know, just hit and running with operatives, basically just as stormtroopers running around capping, they're actually fighting with the Marines here, so you've got to definitely take a more unique approach. Las Rhino here is encountering a Death Dread, which is obviously going to go very well for the Las Rhino, insofar as it can be microed correctly. Do we see any Beamy Looter? No, the Beamy Looter, well, the Looter is in base right now. We need to get a Beamy Looter and get it out here to support the Las Rhino. Brother Captain is back on his feet again, has that Nemesis Force Halberd, so basically he can now just annihilate the Slugger squads even with their Nob. And the Death Dread obviously is just going to get kited by the Las Rhino. As long as Inekura micros it correctly, the Death Dread shouldn't be able to catch up to him. Ooh, he missed micros, shows rear armor? No, it's going to kill it, yeah. And that's basically GG. There was the option of a Melter Bomb here as well from the Operatives. Of course, if the Operatives were a little bit closer, then that wouldn't have been even a threat. So that game obviously was decided a long time ago, and this is the beauty of me casting these series, and it's part of the reason though why I'm not changing my ordinary content schedule whilst I'm casting these games. Some of these games are short, man, and some of the games, you know, the players, fair play to Tenso, he didn't give in, he fought that out for a long time. That game was honestly well over like a solid 5 minutes ago. Some of the games get decided really early, but these are the real games in Dawn of War 2, you know? I know a lot of you guys who watch the content on the channel, you just enjoy the content, you love Warhammer 40k, so just acknowledge you're seeing a very small sample size of the overall repertoire of games that happens in the community when you're watching the YouTube videos, because obviously we want to cast games that are epic, where there's a tug of war back and forth. But anyway, there you go, that is the series between Inekura and Tenso. Inekura is going to take it, repping the Ordo Malleus, 2-0 to Inekura. Thank you for tuning in, folks.